here is a question worth sitting with. When people in power talk about young people and conflict, what is the first word that comes to mind? Too often, it's a danger, a threat, a problem to be managed. But what if that story is mostly wrong? What if young people aren't the spark that starts the conflict, but some of the best people to put it out with? Warmest greetings from Armenia. I'm Edward Grigorian, a board member of the Kectil program. As you colleagues are passing this year through peace and conflict assignment, this explainer is exactly for you. In the next few minutes, we are walking through Youth, Peace and Security Agenda. We will learn what it is, where it comes from, and why it matters, for the world and for you. Let's start with the myth. For a long time, a lot of policy thinking was shaped by an idea called youth bulge. The theory went like this. When a country has a very large population of young people, especially young men, and not enough jobs or opportunity, you get instability, violence. So young people were treated as a risk to be contained. You can see why this took hold. Young people are deeply affected by conflict. They are often the ones recruited into armed groups, the ones displaced from home, and the ones who lose access to school and safety. But here is the part the myth missed, and it's a big one. Most young people are not involved in violence, not even close. The overwhelming majority, even in the hardest places on earth, are trying to build something. They are mediating disputes in their neighborhood, running radio shows against hate speech, bringing rival communities to the same table. When you frame an entire generation as a threat, two things happen. You insult the many because of the few, and you waste the single greatest resource a fragile society has, its own young people. That is what makes December 9, 2015 a genuinely historic day. On that day, the United Nations Security Council, the most powerful body in international peace and security, unanimously adopted Resolution 2250. It was the first time in history that the world officially recognized young people not as a problem to be solved, but as partners in building peace. And this didn't come from the top down, it came from young people themselves. Before 2250, more than 11,000 young people from over 110 countries had been organizing, advocating, and refusing to be left out of the room. Jordan helped champion the resolution at the Security Council, but the push came from the ground up. 2 years later, the UN commissioned an independent study led by a researcher named Graham Simpson, called The Missing Piece. Its findings were blunt. The negative stereotypes about youth had fueled what it called policy panic, pushing governments toward heavy-handed security responses and away from the thing that actually works, which is prevention and inclusion. The missing piece, it turned out, were the young people themselves who had been left out. Since then, the agenda has grown. Resolution 2250 in 2015 started it. Resolution 2419 in 2018 focused attention on including young women. Resolution 2535 in 2020 laid out concrete steps to actually put it into practice. And Resolution 2807, adopted in 2025, reaffirmed the whole commitment. 4 resolutions, one clear message: youth belong at the peace table. So, what does the agenda actually ask the world to do? It rests on 5 pillars. Think of them as 5 practical answers to one question. How do we take young people seriously in peace and security? Participation. This is the heart of it. Young people should have a real seat and a real voice in decisions about peace at every level, local, national, and international. Not a token seat, not let young people speak for 2 minutes at the end. Actual, meaningful participation in the processes that shape their lives. Protection. Young people must be protected from violence, from human rights abuses, from exploitation, and from being recruited into armed groups. You can't ask someone to build peace while their basic safety is under threat. Prevention. This one flips the script entirely. Instead of treating young people as the cause of conflict, it recognizes their power to prevent it through education, dialogue, social inclusion, and countering the pull of violent extremism at its roots. Partnership. Peace is a team effort. Governments, the UN, civil society, and youth organizations all have to work together. And crucially, that means governments actually resourcing and supporting the youth-led work that is already happening. Disengagement and reintegration. For young people who have been caught up in armed groups, there needs to be a real path back, support to leave violence behind and rebuild a life in their community. Young people who have made that journey are often the most powerful voices for helping others to do the same. Participation, protection, prevention, partnership, disengagement, and reintegration. 5 pillars, 1 foundation. Now let's make this real, because pillars on a slide can feel abstract. Picture a young woman in a community fractured by conflict. She doesn't hold a title, she doesn't have army, but she knows every family on her street. Which ones are grieving, which ones are angry, and which ones are one room away from picking up a weapon. When tensions rise, she is the one who can walk between two groups that won't talk to each other because both of them trust her. This is peace building. And no peace signed in a distant capital can hold without thousands of people like her making it stick. This is the insight at the core of the whole agenda. Conflict prevention is more sustainable when young people's perspectives are built in from the start, not added as an afterthought. Young people aren't just affected by peace. They are the ones who carry it home and keep it alive. The research backs this up. Violent conflict is best explained by things like injustice, inequality, and exclusion, not by mere existence of young people. So when you include young people, you are not being generous, you are being smart. You are addressing the actual roots of instability. So why does this matter for you working on peace and conflict assignment this year? Because the youth peace and security agenda isn't really about United Nations. It's about you. The whole global framework exists to make spaces for exactly the kind of leadership young people like you are capable of. You don't need a UN badge to lead this agenda. You live it when you mediate a conflict in your school or workplace, when you refuse to share a rumor that could spark violence, when you bring people from different sides of a divide into honest conversation, when you insist, politely but firmly, that young people be in the room when decisions get made. The world spent a long time asking whether young people were a threat to peace. The answer, written into international law, is now clear. Young people are one of the greatest hope for it. The framework has been built. The seat at the table has been set. The only question left is what you will do with it.